The Senior Bowl, similar to the Combine in the fact that there's just a ton of people there from NFL organizations who just love to talk, and the bars and the restaurants and on the sideline and in elevators, just like the Combine, just with a more Alabama feel to it. What's the chitter chatter there about Brian Schottenheimer's hiring in Dallas, Tom? How's the league community taking that one in?
I think there's two sides to this. People who have worked with Brian Schottenheimer can tell you all about the positive traits that he has in terms of, setting a program, being demanding, having a good way with the players, building a culture. He's got all those types of things. But he's a first-time head coach who is, I believe, 51 years old and had been, as we know, a longtime NFL assistant coach and coordinator whose stars seem to have sailed, a couple of decades ago in terms of being a head coach. But, the traits are there. And if Shotty were 41 or 31 instead of 51, maybe we'd look at this through a little bit different lens. I think that the part that still surprises people here is that Jerry Jones really didn't run much of a search. He interviewed 4 people. 2 of them had already been in the building. Shotty, of course, was in the building. Kellen Moore was the other one that he spoke to. And then he brought in Robert Saleh and he brought in Leslie Frazier, which is not unlike back when he hired Mike McCarthy. And really, I think he only interviewed 3 people. He interviewed Marvin Lewis, Ron Rivera, and Mike McCarthy for that job. Jerry had a very, specific focus on what he intended to do. And the more that I, talked to people who had been around that building, the more they said, people on the outside might be shocked, but inside it's not. Because Jerry didn't actually want to change anything. He wanted to keep the same offense. He wanted to, continue the same culture. He liked that Schottenheimer had a good relationship with Dak Prescott. There were scenarios that were discussed with Mike McCarthy for him to stick around. But Jerry wasn't willing to invest in a commitment, much less a longer-term commitment, to keep Mike McCarthy in-house. So Brian Schottenheimer, although I watched the press conference, I know he says he's going to do some things differently, and I have no doubts about that. But they're really not overhauling things with a expensive, top-heavy, expensive type of a roster with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb making top-of-the-market type of money. Micah Parsons, that's going to be perhaps a battle that goes on this entire offseason with Micah and trying to get a contract done. There's various challenges that take place here for Brian Schottenheimer. I would also just say, Rich, Jerry Jones has for years railed against excessive coaching salaries and coaching dead money. He's stood up multiple times at league meetings and excoriated his fellow owners about the money that they're wasting on coaches. I mean, you can go back 3 decades ago when he made comments along the lines of, 500 different people could have coached this team to a Super Bowl. And that was part of the fissure that erupted between him and Jimmy Johnson. And he was proven somewhat right when Barry Switzer comes back to the sideline and goes and wins another Super Bowl here. This is a long-running thing for Jerry Jones. And again, that's not a shot at Brian Schottenheimer or his qualifications. It's just to say Jerry accomplished a couple of things here. One, he didn't change a whole lot. And number 2, he spent less money and didn't have to get into a bidding war for all these top candidates to lock in a coach that he, regardless of what anyone else thinks, that Jerry Jones himself believes in.
But he didn't call Dion to ask him his opinion of Brian Schottenheimer, I'm sure. So
I think that was a mutually beneficial call, Rich.
Well,
we can call this what it is after the fact, which is Jerry Jones spent a day getting blasted from all corners of what in the world was going on with parting ways with your head coach 8 days after the regular season ended. And by that evening, Deion Sanders, who, by the way, was in contract negotiations with Colorado, his name happens to emerge that they had a phone call. That accomplished things for both sides. Deion got a little bit of leverage, got people thinking maybe that he might take the Cowboys job. And Jerry got the headline by the evening news to be Jerry and Deion talked, and not Jerry just messed this up with a guy who won 12 games 3 years in a row before he got blasted by injuries and had everybody stressed out because they were all on contract years in 2024.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.